What up? Marsh Pod. Recorded this one in a couple different parts. Part 1 we recorded earlier today in the aftermath of another upset, as this has been a unprecedented Hoopsteria with the number of upsets we've got. So a little bit of reaction to Parity in the league. And then also we're going to talk a little bit of the lottery, which is coming up by the time you're watching and listening tonight. That is 7 p.m. I think, as we're going to break down kind of what to watch for and implications of the upcoming lottery. Let's dive in. Okay, part 1. We're recording this. It's just after 1 o'clock Eastern, and Arkansas has just fallen to SMU, making it the 10th upset of the first round of Hoopsteria. That's what 3 15 seeds have advanced, a pair of number 16 seeds, after we had just in history, we had 2 16 seeds in all time pull upsets, and we just had 2 in the last 48 hours. A historic opening round, which by the time this comes out on Monday, there may be even more historics to come with Rutgers and Princeton, Michigan, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Georgia Tech, Butler, Miami. I mean, there's plenty of more opportunities for us to see some more upsets. You're going to hear a lot about people saying parity. Parity is here. Parity is alive and well. I'm going to call BS on that, because I don't think parity exists. I think we're looking at I don't have an answer for what it is, but this isn't a sign of parity. This is a sign of terrible basketball by good basketball teams. But this isn't parity, because if parity existed, then we wouldn't see Virginia Tech go 25-6 or Memphis go 23-11. They both lost, right? We wouldn't see Kansas go 23-10, Texas go 25-7, Georgetown go 22-9. We wouldn't see any of that, because if this was parity, then we would have more teams at 16-14, right? Or 18-13, or some barometer right in their middle. We wouldn't have Wichita State at 12-19 winning if this was parity. What this is the only thing I can consider it is bad teams striking lightning and passing it along to one another, and good teams not coming in prepared. Good teams that should have been better than this, good teams that are better than this, just simply not being good. Poor coaching. I think there's a little bit of some poor roster management, clearly, because, and I'm not saying that some of the people that have been outspoken in the last 24 hours about what they should have been or could have been on a roster, I think that's actually detrimental to these organizations. A guy like Charles Pinkard getting that bent out of shape, a sub 10 point per game score, a sub 40% shooter, getting bent out of shape shows that a lot of these rosters have zero accountability amongst themselves, and there's maybe just too big of egos for people that really shouldn't have big egos sitting at the bottom of a roster, but yet demanding and expecting star treatment. So when their number does get called, rather than trying to feed their way to the player that can get it done, they decide it's my turn to take over. They try to dominate, and it leads to losses. This is stunning. This is, as I've said multiple times, upsetting to see. We aren't going to have good basketball teams at the end. We're just not. You can't sit here and tell me, well, good basketball teams won, because they didn't. Oregon is not good. Virginia is not good. UConn is not good. These aren't good basketball teams, but they played better than a good basketball team. Some questionable calls, multiple questionable three-point calls that probably should have extended at least one of our games. Some questionable fouls, some questionable coaching decisions up and down Hoopsteria. Somebody has taken, I think the Monstars must be in the room, because somebody has come in and taken the juice from every single good basketball team, it appears, and walked away with it and said, you're not getting this back. And it's frankly, in my opinion, disappointing to see. All right, part 2, we are breaking down the lottery, which is coming up again Monday night. The odds, I think there's a lot at stake, obviously, which is in a class that I mentioned this to B-Ron on the broadcast. I don't know that this is a great draft class if you think about it like by class, like school year, right? Sophomore, junior, senior. I think compositely it's a pretty solid class. I don't know that this is a class that's loaded. I think there's a handful of guys that I would consider Tier 1 prospects, right? I think Jameson Johnson is Tier 1, Jalen Justice, Trey Hunter are all Tier 1 in my book. Tier 1 being guys that I think can become all SWBA. I think Glory Tate, or Cooper King and Cross, I'd add to that list. I think Glory Tate has all-star upside, the same with Lemarian Sherwood. I think this is a really deep class in terms of if you want to get good talent. So I don't think winning or losing the lottery is going to be that impactful to a team later, right? Like, I think you can get really good value in this class in the late lottery. So a team, if you're sitting there, Chicago, Sacramento, Atlanta, Dallas, Portland, Sacramento, that pick could go to Atlanta as well. But I think overall there's San Antonio. There's at the end with the Atlanta pick. But I think overall it's a pretty solid class that if you're picking there, you feel pretty good about your options. But there's still value to have at the top. And I think really who wins this lottery is really going to impact who goes number one. I think it goes without saying if Cooper Flagg was in this class, he'd be the number one pick. I don't think there's anyone that's arguing that. I think he's the best player in college basketball. But I think who ends up at number one is really going to impact this. I think Washington, everyone that's sitting there has plenty of pieces to fill, right? Utah, I think there's I'm down on Lauri Markkanen. This was not a really good Utah team. I know they wanted to lose. I don't know why Lauri Markkanen felt the desire to be in Utah, which wanted to be as bad as they possibly could. For what reason, I don't know. Right, just to be there, to me that makes no sense. So I think Utah, Washington, Charlotte, and New Orleans all have a ton of things they need. Let's start with Philadelphia. Philadelphia needs to stay in the top 6, right? They need to be in the top 6, and they have the 5th best odds at 24 and 58. They slide there because of just an atrocious end. They cannot see two teams jump up, right? That's the first thing that we need to watch for. You're going to hear that everywhere if you're surrounding yourself with content. Philadelphia needs to hope throughout all hope that they stay in the top 5, in the top 6. I mean, if they can jump up to number 1, they'd obviously be stoked about that. But I really think who goes number 1 is going to depend on what player goes number 1 is going to depend on who's picking at number 1. I think Utah's probably looking to try to find something that they can pair with Lauri Markkanen. Right? I think Washington has got a roster that's completely bare. If you're going to sit here and tell me, well, we've got Alex Sarr and we got Koulibaly, Jordan Poole, miss me on all that, because you're not building a roster with those guys stopping you from getting who would be a better player. And every single option that they have, if they're in the top, the lowest they can go is 5, right? Every single player in the top 5 is going to be better than what Washington currently has on their roster, right? So I think Washington can look at it as just a straight up, let's take the best guy available. Charlotte, you've got LaMelo Ball. I think Charlotte is a very obvious Lemarian Sherwood or Jamison Johnson landing spot to me. Lemarian Sherwood has played better as of late. He's probably going to earn himself a high pick. I have said that which is why this year's class is so different, because normally seniors are not top 5 picks. I think Lemarian Sherwood's probably going to be a top 5 pick. This is going to be an anomaly season. It's going to be historical in that aspect. Charlotte can do it, right? New Orleans, such an odd team to me, right? With the unknown future of Zion, the unknown future of DeJounte Murray, right? With the Achilles injury. They've got to find a way to offload CJ McCollum this offseason. So for the Pelicans, if they're to get there, I think they are also in the take the best guy available, because I don't know if their current roster as currently constructed is going to be here next season. But everything that I'm seeing is that there's no consensus. It's not as if this is a draft lottery to decide who gets to get said player, right? If it was Cooper Flagg, it would be for Cooper Flagg, but it's not. It's going to be based off who needs what. And we don't need to go through every single team, but it's going to be based off of who needs a big man. And I think there's a number of guys in this class that could use a big man, right? But there could be a situation where somebody says we need a guard. A lot of these teams are pretty bad. It's an interesting group where outside of Philadelphia, San Antonio, and Houston, I don't know that there's a team out there that sits there and says we have a tent pole, right? Toronto is going to tell you Scotty Barnes, so they might go the guard route if they were to get up there. But I think for the most part, a lot of these teams, And again, if you're going to tell me Brooklyn is saying we got a tent pole in Cam Thomas, you don't know what a tent pole is. Like, Cam Thomas is not a tent pole, right? So there's just, it's going to be interesting because I think it's really going to influence who goes number one based off of who ends up picking there. To me, everything I'm hearing makes me feel as if it's going to be a guard. I know there's some people that I've seen posts that people are saying it's not Jalen Snow. I don't know. I guess I'd be going contrary to every other expert. I kind of like his game at number one. I like what he does. He's a good scorer. He's a 2-level scorer. He's 6'5", 6'6". He can play the wing. I don't quite know what the experts are saying when they say he's not the number one guy. I'm just high on him. And in a class where I don't think there's a bona fide, it's definitely said player, I really think it can be Jalen Snow going number one overall. So what to watch for in the draft? I finally get to that. Philadelphia, where do they end up? Do they end up with a spot that they manage to keep their pick? It's of interest because otherwise it goes to Oklahoma City. And as a basketball fan, neither option is all that great, especially after watching Oklahoma City on Sunday tie things up in Denver, and I think that's their series to lose as it heads back for Game 5 in Oklahoma City. San Antonio, if they jump into the top 5, regardless of who they're taking, with De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama already in place, that's a scary team to keep an eye on. And then just for pure comedy, where does Phoenix's pick end up? It's going to Houston via Brooklyn via Phoenix. But where does that pick end up? Because I think, they got 3.8% odds of number one. It won't matter, but it would just be comedy for Phoenix's pick to end up in the top 5, in the top 4, number one. And they don't even get a chance to use it. All because of these foolish deals. I mean, that would be part of the Kevin Durant trade, but all of these just really terrible trades that they've decided to make over the last 3-4 seasons, really ever since they were riding high and making it to the SWBA finals. I'd be curious where that ends up. I also think Dallas is kind of riding. I think the future of Nico Harrison is kind of riding on 1.8% odds because I just think that's a team that could use a pick. Regardless of what they think of their immediate or long-term future. The trade from Luka was so bad, they need something. I want to do one thing, kind of play it on the fly, but let's do conspiracy theory hat, right? Every single time something happens that we kind of craft conspiracy theories, right? The frozen envelope to get New York to get Julius Erving. Everyone talking about how when the Pelicans got Zion at number one right after they got the trade demand of Anthony Davis. So just wanted to do a couple, what's the conspiracy theory? What's the conspiracy theory that they got number one? We can go through the entire list. Atlanta, this one's going to San Antonio. So San Antonio has 2 picks that could end up at number one. Either one of those, they want the Spurs to have a second or maybe a third star, really a third, because De'Aaron Fox is a fringe all-star guy. They want to have a third elite dude and one that's at the same age as Victor Wembanyama. That's the conspiracy theory for San Antonio. Sacramento could go to Atlanta, so I don't really buy into any conspiracy theory there. Chicago would have gotten on by now. There's no player in this class that screams to me Chicago gets it. Dallas, conspiracy theory. What's the conspiracy theory? Well, Dallas needed to rebuild after the Luka trade, how terrible it was, and the league couldn't step in and say no, so Dallas needs something. Portland, not really a good one there. Phoenix, it's going to Houston, not really a good one there. We already talked San Antonio. Toronto, it's not really a good conspiracy theory. Brooklyn, not really a great one. Philadelphia, you got Joel Embiid in one of the biggest markets in the SWBA, a team that was atrocious last season. The conspiracy is they want a piece so that they get out of jail free on what has been an absolutely atrocious Philadelphia Joel Embiid draft. Completely butchering this. A Joel Embiid contract extension last summer when they didn't need to do it, and he barely played this season. Getting the number one pick in a class where they can take any one of what I think is 5 guys that could become all-star to all SWBA. That's the get out of jail free. New Orleans, I don't really see one. Charlotte, I don't really see one. Washington gets number one so they could take Cooper King across, right? Maybe one of if not the best guard in this class. I think he could be the number one pick. I've said that multiple times. I think other people in the league think that's a very real possibility. Not necessarily Washington at number one, but Cooper King across going. at number 1. So Washington getting the number 1 pick, that's the Cooper King Cross stays home pick. And Utah, I don't really see one. So the conspiracies, in recap, the conspiracy theories that could exist in this lottery. It's Washington gets number 1 so they could take the hometown CKC. It's Philadelphia so they get a runway or an off-ramp from the Joel Embiid terrible contract. It's San Antonio with 2 shots at it to add another star to Victor Wembanyama to make sure that San Antonio is overloaded with elite talent so that they can have Victor Wembanyama playing into May and June for the rest of his career, and then Dallas, the makeup pick in the aftermath of the Luka disaster trade. Do I believe in those? No, but I'm telling you that's the pathway that we go for a potential conspiracy theory here as we head into the lottery draft later tonight.